You know what occurs to me today? That there may not be another person that's installed more wheels with Tubeless than me. I do at least 8 of these per year, and I've done them to a bunch of other friends' bikes, and I've been using Tubeless for like 10 years, almost 10 years now. I have installed Tubeless on more than 100 wheels at this point, and I'm gonna tell you why I do it. I mean, point in fact, I've got a drill that always has the bit here that you need to drill out, the size that you need to drill this out. I can't remember what it is. I did this years ago. This drill never has anything but this on it, this bit in it, and that's to drill out my wheel sets. I freaking love Tubeless, and the reason, where's my spoon? The reason why I love Tubeless is like I can run much lower pressures. You know, it depends on the tire that I'm using, but I will run, instead of having to run like 12 to 13 to 15 pounds of pressure in a tube to avoid getting pinch flats, I will run as little as 0 pounds of pressure in some tires when I've got Tubeless. The most I ever run with Tubeless is 6 PSI, like in a rear tire, and oftentimes I'm in the 2 to 4 pound range. I get incredible traction, and yes, you do get some punctures, but I carry plugs with me, and it's not a big deal. I can typically fix anything out on the trail, and even if I can't fix something, I can ride back. I have ridden back, you know, dozens and dozens of miles on a tire that is flat. It has never ended. I've never had to end my day because of a flat tire. Now, I get it. Some people like bibs, and there are some advantages to moose bibs, especially if if you can't have a failure and you don't want to slow down ever or whatnot, but bibs give you like this dead feeling, you know, and I don't love the dead feeling of bibs. So yeah, there's advantages to tubes, there's advantages to bibs, there's advantages to Tubeless. Tubeless is complicated your first time doing it, and it can be a little bit of a pain until you kind of get used to it. But honestly, once it's installed on the tire, then my tire changes are super quick. I can just pull them off, pull them back on. I'm not pinching tubes, I'm not doing anything. And so it's just, the hardest part is putting it on for the first time. After that, it is bliss for me, Tubeless, get it? And I absolutely love it. In fact, I'm such a proponent of Tubeless, I typically don't even ride a bike before I've installed it because I'm so used to the fact, like, suspension works better with Tubeless. Traction is better with Tubeless. Everything is better with Tubeless in my mind. And so I don't even ride bikes typically before I've installed Tubeless. And so if I put Tubeless on right out of the gate like this, then the rim is clean and it's even easier. So now that I've got the tire off the rim, I've got my rim tape thing, this thing, if you want to call that tape, I've got that off. And now I'm going to drill this out with this here drill bit. It's in the instructions here, which I never read. Oh, it's an 11 millimeter drill bit. It's 11 meter or 7/16 inch drill bit. There's a bunch of instructions that I never look at anymore because I've done it so much. I'm just like, okay, let's go. And it's literally like second nature to me to like, it's just, I'm on autopilot. I don't even have to think about it. Let's drill this sucker out right now. You'll see how easy that is. That's one of the reasons people don't want to do it, is they're like scared about drilling out the rims. Let me show you how easy this is. Okay, on some of the bikes, like you'll have a hole here for your valve stem and a hole here for like the rim lock. Sometimes the hole is on the opposite side of the rim. The holes are on the opposite side. That makes it harder. But every rim I've ever had has had at least 2 holes, and you're just drilling out one of these holes for the rim lock. So it's this easy. Watch this. That's it. So there we go. Just kind of clean that out. I'm obviously gonna vacuum this up. And then let me show you something else I do here. I don't know if this is absolutely necessary, but I just take a round file right here and I just clean this up a little bit so that there's no burrs on that. Okay, now I'm gonna blow this off with compressed air and then put my rim tape on. Okay, this next step is my least favorite part, and it's the most tedious part, but I also think it's probably the most important part which is installing the rim tape here on the rim. Now, here's what's very important. The first round of this rim tape is going to be down in the drop center of the rim, right here centered in the drop center. The next layer is going to be offset just to the side, but not up over the shoulder of the drop center. The tape can never go above that shoulder. It needs to cover these spokes, but never breach the top of that shoulder. And then the third round will be the opposite side coming over here. And it's also going to be offset, but it's never going to breach the top of that shoulder. This is critical. If you overlap this rim tape where it's up on top of this shoulder, or even kind of up crowning on the crown of that bend, you'll probably have it leak. So this is the most tedious part, and it's probably the most critical part. Let me kind of show you here a little bit. Okay, I don't think it really matters where we start, but here are my two holes in the wheel. I'm not gonna start there. I don't think it super matters, but I'm just not gonna start there. So here's what I'll do. I will go right here in the center of my drop center, and I just use a bucket and a chair, as you can see, to kind of just roll this thing around, and I'm just slowly putting this down inside the center and getting it down. Now, everything has gotta be clean and dry on this wheel, but this is critical for our seal. So I'm gonna quiet down now and just do this, and you'll see this in fast motion, but it takes a hot minute, and this is my least favorite part of the whole deal. Okay, now I've gone one revolution, and now I brought you in closer here because I want to show you this. I'm gonna go and start moving this over so that the rim tape is now it's not in the center anymore, and this is my second revolution, and I'm coming up onto here, this part right here, but I'm not going up over the shoulder. And you'll be able to see this on the other side as I go around the other side too, but this part is so critical right here. So I'm gonna take my time and just make sure that I have this as even as I possibly can and all the way down, stuck down completely evenly to where I'm just below right where this is gonna start to round over. This is where I'm putting this rim tape. Let me finish this part, and then I'll start talking as I move to the other side. Okay, right here is where I started to climb up onto this side. So now I'm going to come across to the other side. And now I'm going on this side right here. So now there's gonna be like a pretty big gap here. I've got like almost 1/4 of an inch of gap from the edge of my other side to this side. Now that gap is smaller when you're doing a front rim, like a 21-inch rim. This is an 18-inch rim, 18-inch wheel right here. But this is so critical, guys. I cannot stress to you how critical this is to have this tape laid down evenly and to make sure it doesn't climb up onto here. So we're just gonna get it just below that shoulder. I'm gonna stay down lower than maybe some would do, because if that comes up over the top of this, like these, it's like the beads always leak. They'll leak like crazy if you get that thing too high. So, and you have to tear everything apart and start over with new rim tape. So we don't want that. So I'm gonna go slow and steady wins the race here. Because if I spend a little bit more time doing this, being slow and methodical, that means I won't have to tear the tire apart. Okay, now we've gone around 3 different times, so I'm just gonna go back into the middle of this thing, and then I'm gonna take my X-Acto knife here or whatever, and cut this. And the reason why I have an X-Acto knife is because of this next part. So I'm gonna cut out the holes for our valve stem and rim lock. So here's the hole right here. I've just found, like, you can use a knife, you can use a box cutter, whatever. I've just found like a little X-Acto knife makes the cleanest hole. So I'm literally just gonna carve this hole out and have a perfect circle here with no problems, so that's good. And that's the bigger one. And then let's see, the other one is right here. Punch it through. Oh my gosh. Of course. See, this type of thing never happens when you're not on camera, but on camera weird things happen. So that blade came out. So we're gonna come here and then just kind of perfect circle around this. Okay, now we are ready. Rim tape installed. That's the part I don't like, but we done. Okay, so the next order of business is to get the Tubeless installed onto the rim. And so what I do is I take this the rim nut off here, rim lock nut off. I'll take this little teeny little thing off the other side of the high pressure chamber. I'm gonna set these two pieces, those two little things, off to the side for a second. And now I'm just going to try to line this up. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, here's my rim lock hole, the one that I drilled out. Here's the one for the valve stem. So I'm gonna line this up and then I'm gonna try to get this tube, because this tube has to go, this little tube here has to go inside the red liner, and it's got to be lined up just perfectly. So I'm gonna eyeball this and say, okay, here's where my rim lock is gonna go through right here. And then if I look directly over this is exactly where, at least where I think this needs to go. So I'm going to just kind of put my tube into this little spot. You kind of pinch, because this is kind of like the rim lock area right here. So I'm gonna pinch that in there and just kind of put that in like that. I'm not pinching it, but I'm putting it in there, and it kind of holds it in place. And then I'm just going to kind of feed the tube around at the same time like this, sticking it into this red liner like that. And now I've got it in. I make sure it's not bunched up or pinched anywhere. And now I'm just gonna double check this and say, okay, look, if I look direct, and it's hard for you guys to see this, but if I look directly down at this is going to go directly into this hole. And then I say, how close am I to this one lining up with that hole? And in this case, I actually did a really, really good job. Sometimes I'll have to pull this out and move the tube one way or another and pull it all the way around so it's not bunched up, so that I get this to come straight through right here. This is also kind of a critical step. Now at this juncture, you're gonna see me use Armor All. I use a lot of Armor All. I buy this by the gallon actually and then I'll just refill it in these bottles. But I'm gonna be putting a lot of Armor All on here. This is the actual trick to make all of this work, is Armor All. So I'm gonna put Armor All on both sides of this tube, of the tubeless thing. Just make sure it's all the way around. This is just gonna make it slick to go on. So I'm very liberal with the Armor All, and now I'll get myself a wipe here, and then we're gonna go and stick this in. So I will put this through here, I'll put this through here. This is where it's tricky if the rim if you're working with a rim where these are on the opposite side, it makes it a little bit trickier at this stage. But I'm just gonna start this nut right there. And then also, so I don't lose this part, I'm gonna put the little nut thing, keeper thing on here. Okay, so that's on like that. Now, they will tell you, I think it says in the instructions that you should just be able to put this on by hand. And they say, I think it said something about if you need to use a tool, you're doing it wrong. Well, I disagree. I've never been able to put this on without using a tire iron, but I'm just careful. Like, there's a tube inside of here that we don't want to pinch, right? And so I'm just very careful, and I've never actually pinched that and ruined that. So I'm just really careful with this. Make sure we're down in the drop center on this side, on the side opposite of where you're working. And yes, I'm not crazy careful with my rims. Other people may be more careful and do this without like marring up the rims at all. But look, I put a couple little scratches in there. I'm not super worried about it. Now, at this point, I'm actually going to put some air in this and just make sure I didn't pinch that tube, but let's check it. It holds air. Okay, so we didn't screw anything up. So now I'm gonna take that, let the air back out of that. because I don't want any air in this while I'm installing the tire. You'll see why. Okay, now we're gonna put the tire in the rim, or the rim in the tire, whatever we want to call it. So we're gonna take our little tool here, stick it in the back. Now pay attention, because if your tire is directional, this is where you want to make sure you put it on the right way, flip the rim, whatever. I'm gonna work on the brake disc side because I think it's a little easier. And I'm going to start with the rim lock at the bottom. So I'm gonna push down on the tire like this, open that little thing up a little bit, and then I'm gonna push down on the tire and just kind of force this down in. So this takes a little bit of coordination. Just go slow. Keep pushing it down. That isn't supposed to happen. We're just gonna keep going for just a second. Because that's being a little pill on the backside, but I think we'll still be okay. Goodness. We're almost in. I just gotta pop this piece right back here, back inside. And we're essentially there. Normally that is not such a little pill like that. Okay, there we go. And now to the next step, mic drop. Okay, next step is to get this humdinger on the bead. So I'm gonna start on this side. I always like to end not on the sprocket side in case I break my fingers open on this. So here's what I'll do. Like, this is where the Armor All is gonna come in really, really handy. So I'm just gonna go ahead and liberally spray the bead and just get the bead really covered. This is gonna help get the thing on, and it's also gonna help it bead up. Now, I'm gonna spoon this around, finishing kind of over here by the rim lock. So I'm gonna put in a bead buddy right here, just like that. And then I'm just gonna start spooning this tire on. A lot of times I'll walk around the tire, but I can't walk around the tire now because I've got the camera there. Just make sure I'm still in the frame. So, yeah. And then one little trick is I'm gonna slip in a tire iron right here, and then I'll go one more bite on this. Let's come around here like that, and then I've got one, that last hardest one to get in is already there. So there's one side. Now I'm just gonna flip this over. By the way, I do this same methodology if I'm using a tube as well. I do still have some tubes, like on my kids' bikes and whatever. And on trial bikes, I've got tubes. Okay, so now that's very, very wet with Armor All. And same thing, gonna finish over here by the rim lock. So I'm gonna put this bead buddy. I don't wanna be right by that, so I'm gonna come over here just one step further. I just wanna finish near the rim lock. That's the rim lock right there, in case you're wondering. Okay, so this side is a little bit harder, the second side. But as you'll see, it's nothing too difficult, especially with all that Armor All on there. We'll come around. We just want to make sure that stays down in the drop center. That's trick, right? And that other trick of putting that last spoon in before it gets too freaking tight, which will be probably the next thing I do. In fact, I might slide one in right now. Slide it in right there. Whoops. Go like that. We'll go one more and then we'll flip that tire iron over. And there it is. Okay, cool. Take that out and then just make sure that's down everywhere. Notice the rim lock is not tightened. And then I'm gonna air up my high pressure side. This won't actually be able to air this up all the way because my high pressure, notice it did put out the bead, but this air compressor is not enough to actually put 110 pounds in that high compression chamber. So I'm gonna do that with just a bicycle pump right here. And I have to take the tire off this stand because that hose isn't long enough. So we're gonna go to 110. Okay, now I've got 110 in the high pressure chamber, and then I'm going to put, I always put like 30 PSI in the low pressure side, which is here. We're still in frame. And at this point, if there was a problem, you'd hear it by now. So you can see the bead has really pushed up and that Armor All is just making a good seal. And if there was any sort of a problem, you'd see it because there's a bunch of Armor all the way around this. That Armor All makes the tire just slip right up onto it. And if there is an issue, you'd see it / hear it. The last thing we're gonna do is tighten up that rim lock. Now this is also, where's that? This is also where you can get, I'm gonna turn this back over. This is also where you can have a little bit of a problem. If you tighten this rim lock up, this is where you can start to hear a leak when you tighten up the rim lock. So just be cognizant of that. This doesn't have to be crazy tight. There is a torque spec for that. That feels about right. And it's not leaking. So this sucker is good to go. And then I'll put my red cap on the high pressure, put my blue cap on the low pressure. And literally, I would never run this with 30 PSI, but I just like to go to 30 PSI to let everything seat up. That's got 16 in it, which is fine. I would run that. This tire, I run it like 4 PSI when I'm running it, but like I'll put more pressure than that in the tire to begin with to get, you know, as things beat up and I check for leaks, right? So if it's not leaking at 30 PSI or whatever, it's not gonna leak at 4. So this sucker is ready to go on the bike. Okay, so I know the tubeless instructions are very long, and maybe I skipped something that they have said on here, but I've just literally done this on more than 100 wheel sets. And so this is how, oh, the other thing that I didn't mention or I didn't do, which I will do a lot, and I would be remiss if I didn't tell you, is you can go ahead and put like some sort of a tire sealant in here, okay? So you'd put this on the low pressure side. So we would take, now that we know it's all sealed up, we would remove the air pressure out of the low pressure side and we'd put some sort of a tire sealant in there. Like this is a good one, multi-seal tire sealant. You can put some of this in there and then run it around the tire, you know, roll it around or whatever. And then air up the low pressure side again. And that will help prevent flats, and it will prevent like slow leaks and things like that. But that's it. This is a Tusk Talon tire. I bought this at Rocky Mountain ATV. I buy all this stuff Rocky Mountain ATV. I buy it all full price. If you use the links down in the video description for Rocky Mountain ATV, you can click on that link, or you can go to my website, dirtbikechannel.com, and there's a thing that says Shop Rocky Mountain ATV. That helps to give me a kickback. It gives me a kickback. You can click on that link and then buy anything they sell, including the tires and tubeless and anything else that they've got, and that really, really helps. But this Tusk Talon tire is amazing because it's a really soft compound. It's a hybrid gummy tire. I love this tire. And it's relatively cheap, so it's pretty freaking awesome. So it's a really great package. But now this sucker's ready to go back on the bike, and this goes on a 250XC. I'm gonna now do this to the Beta over here and get that thing done. But I love tubeless because you can run, now that this has tubeless installed on that rim, tire changes are lickety split. You rip a tire off, boom, you put another tire on there. It's so fast, it's so much easier. So the hardest part is getting that installed the first time. And I have used tubeless for say 100 hours, like 5-6 tire changes. And if I have to run a tire flat, I can totally do that. As long as you're always putting 110 PSI in the high pressure side, and check that every day that you ride. Every single day you ride, check the high pressure and the low pressure. And also know that it's not uncommon for these things to leak, because honestly, we're dealing with such a low volume of air in the high pressure side, this will leak. It leaks out of the valve core, I believe. And then you're most likely gonna have leaks out of your low pressure side as well. So over a few days, this may go flat. A lot of times when I have these in the shop, I have flat tires, and I just pump them up every time I go ride, and I don't worry about it. It's one of the things that you have to deal with. So if you don't ever wanna check tire pressure, don't run tubeless. But if you want to have the most flexibility, the most traction, the best performance out of any tire, use tubeless. And I say that definitively. Tires will work better when you can run lower pressure. Tires will work. Tubeless gives you more performance out of your tire than like moose bibs do or tubes do, because you can run lower pressure, so everything gets softer. And so much of what we want out in the trail is soft and contact patch and traction. So yeah, this is how I install tubeless. I don't think I skipped any of my steps. I don't think I skipped anything on the video. I know this is a longer video, but yeah, it is what it is. And now this sucker's ready to go. And this is going on a sweepstakes bike. They're all sweepstakes bikes, I guess. At least they have been for a hot minute. So thanks so much for watching. Send me emails if you have questions at Kyle. It's Kyle@dirtbikechannel.com. And yeah, guess that's what I got for you. If we didn't have 1,000,000 feet of snow out here, we could go ride, but it's January and it's really cold. It's like 20 degrees outside, so I'm glad I'm in a heated shop. Thank you so much for supporting what we're doing, and use tubeless. It's pretty freaking awesome. Just know that first time, it's gonna be some growing pains of learning how to do it right, but stick with it. I've stuck with it for 10 years and I love it, absolutely love it. So until next time, leave a single track. Thanks guys.